Hi, I'm Bill Somack, and in this video we're going to introduce the left hand as you start your learning process on the violin. In a prior video we were focused just on the right hand. If you're viewing this after the last video, we had the left hand sitting here on the upper bout since we weren't using it, but now we're going to bring the left hand into position to be able to play fingered notes. So what we do is we bring the arm back here, and some important things about the position of the left arm. First of all, you want to have the elbow underneath the instrument, which is very important, but the angle of the wrist is also very important. So there are two possible ways to have the wrist angle here. So one would be to have a straight line from the wrist up to the hand, which is typical for most players. You just have a straight line going from the wrist up to the hand. And then the other possibility for people who have longer arms is they might bend the wrist away from them. So if you have a longer arm, it might be more comfortable to bend the wrist away from you. And my arm is a little longer, so I tend to bend my wrist away from you. The one thing you do not want to do is do not cave in the wrist, do not bend the wrist towards you, because if you do that, you will not be able to go past the first position, and you'll be very limited as to what you can do on the violin. So you either have the wrist straight or bent slightly away from you. So then we can go over intervals. So a basic primer on intervals is that you have half steps and whole steps as a starting point. So a half step is a one finger interval. So if you're playing a half step, for instance, going from an open string to a first finger, so there's no gap between, that interval is just right beyond the edge of the peg box. So open would be here, and if you went right next to the edge of the peg box, that would be a half step. So there's no gap. So a half step looks like this. The two fingers are next to each other, touching each other. There's no gap in between. So that is a half step. So you can do half steps. Or if you wanted to just, so that you get used to what half steps are, you could literally do consecutive fingers where you would do, the fourth would be here. The third is right next to the four, touching it. Two is right next to three. And then one is right next to two. And then you could go down two, and then move it down one finger width. So you can also take one finger and you can move it up by half step, which is the width of one finger. So those are half steps. Then the whole step is where there's a one finger gap in between notes. So there's a note in between that you're not playing. So if I do a whole step from open D to E, so open to one, that's that's a whole step. Here is the note that's not heard, which is the half step. So you have open, half step, whole step. So that's a whole step. And then if you were going 1 to 2, half step, whole step. Whole step. Then if you're going 2 to 3, half step, whole step, whole step, and then half step. So this is something that you can start experimenting with so that you become familiar with half steps and whole steps, because that's going to be important for a lot of things that you'll do later on with the instrument. So it's a basic concept that would be important for you to start working on. And I go into much more detail with this in my play-free violin method, which is linked in my profile here. So if you're interested in going deeper into this, you can click my link, and I have monthly and annual subscription plan. If you wanted to get started going deeper into all of this, you could start with a monthly subscription, and you can cancel anytime if you decide you want to start and then later you don't want to continue with it after a month or so. You can cancel anytime if you choose to, but I go into much greater depth with these fundamentals, and if you choose to go that route, you'll be able to get very comfortable with these, with the level of detail that I'll be going in when I go through these in my methods. So, but this is a good starting point for you to start working on the very beginnings of playing the violin.